Hello ladies and gents, I'm the Beanie 101 and I'm back with another Mass Effect Andromeda Multiplayer class guide. Today I've been playing around with the Human Engineer yet again, and I've been playing around with Cryobeam and seeing what works and what doesn't as a result of the most recent patch. And I've come up with this build which is so much fun. It's possibly some of the most fun that I've had with the game so far, and it lets things explode with ice with enormous regularity. So if you like this video and if you find this build guide useful, then don't forget to hit that like button, and I do have a number of other class guide videos out there, so check the description or the links below, and you should be able to catch any of my other class guides. But I'm going to get started right into the build. We're going to start with Cryobeam, and I'm going to talk you through exactly what skills I'm going to be taking. At rank 4 I'm going to be taking recharge speed over damage. Now it's a 50% increase to damage that you're missing out on by taking recharge speed, but one of the reasons why I want to take recharge speed is because I want to keep as much uptime on Cryobeam as physically possible. 30% reduction is pretty good. Recharge speed is 10 seconds normally, so getting a 30% reduction to that is quite handy. You can use it pretty regularly. At rank 5 we've got a choice between Brittle Freeze, which gives you a huge buff to your armor defense, or you can choose Radius. I am choosing Radius here for the same reason that I used to choose Radius on my Cryo Trap build, and that's just so that I can spray ice absolutely everywhere. You can target more than one enemy with your Cryobeam if you take the additional Radius, but more importantly, one of the things that it allows you to do is it allows you to more adequately freeze enemies that are hiding behind cover. The radius increases the impact, and it manages to target people that are in cover quite nicely. Rank 6 is what this build is all about. We have a choice between Cryo Trap and Snap Freeze. I am going to choose Snap Freeze because it causes a huge amount of damage, 150% frozen shatter radius, extra shatter force, and 200% shatter damage. Now the reason why I go is because I'm able to freeze multiple enemies that are unarmored and unshielded, and when they explode, they are going to explode a lot. If you get a group of enemies with this and you manage to kill one frozen enemy and it causes it to shatter, it can cause a huge chain reaction to anybody else in near proximity. It's going to do a lot of damage, it's going to instantly freeze other enemies as well, and you can follow up and kill enemies, and it's going to cause more explosions, and it's going to spread that freeze effect, that snap freeze effect, to other nearby enemies. Really good usage you can get out of snap freeze, especially if you're in enclosed spaces, in choke points, in small rooms, so things like upload objectives and hacking objectives. This comes into its own. It's really good, and it's what makes the build the most fun. I'm absolutely guaranteeing you of it. Assault Turret has seen a huge buff in its usability since patch 1.06, so we're going to be getting a lot more health and damage from our Assault Turret, so it's going to be able to survive a lot more and give us a bit more utility. At rank 4 we're going to take Durability, that's plus 75% turret health. Huge. The reason why we don't take recharge speed, and don't get me wrong, 200% recharge speed is absolutely massive, it's mainly because one of the other changes to the assault turret is that the recharge time now starts as soon as you lay the turret down rather than when it's destroyed. So you can lay a turret down, and as long as it lasts 30 seconds, which it's more likely to now that you're giving it a lot more health, then you're going to be able to chuck another turret down as soon as it is destroyed anyway. So I think because of all of the boosts that you get to the turret's health these days, you may as well go for durability over recharge speed in most circumstances. At rank 5 you have a choice between extra gun damage, but I like Omnilink. The reason why is because firstly it gives me an additional 35% boost to my recharge speeds, which is very sizable, but it also allows me to heal my turret on a regular basis as well. So as long as you stay in close proximity to your turret, you're going to get the bonus of really fast recharge speeds, and you're going to actually be able to keep your turrets alive much longer, which is another reason why you don't need to take recharge speed at rank 4. I'm going to leave rank 6 blank and not take any skills at this point. I have considered doing cryo ammo and going rank 6 in turret and taking some points off overload, but cryo ammo and flamethrower, especially when you're not the host, it does still do glitchy damage and does still take a long time to freeze enemies. And flamethrower, it's all right. It would serve better on some other builds and some other classes compared to the engineer. So we're going to leave rank 6 for your assault turret. That means that we can take some additional power out of our overload ability. We're going to take the 10% recharge speed and plus 25% to all damage. So that's the initial and the charged and the chained damage. Pretty good. And then we're going to get into our passives. Nothing unusual to say here. We're going to get some additional construct damage. At rank 4, you're going to have the choice between power enhancement to give your powers extra damage and a bit more duration, or more importantly, I think at this stage I'm going to go for combo damage and combo radius. That means that when I trigger a combo with my overload, especially on things like frozen enemies, it's going to be more likely to kill them, which is more likely to cause this snap freeze effect. So by increasing your combo detonation damage, you're going to get more of those snap freezes. At rank 5, the choice is between anti-shield and anti-armor. The choice is yours. I find that most enemies that are bullet spongy and have a slightly larger health pool, some of the tankier enemies in the game, they all tend to be armored. So for that reason, I want to do additional damage to armor. Shields, usually a charged overload, is going to take the shields down on almost anything now that overload has been buffed considerably post patch 1.06. At rank 6, there's not really much choice here. You can choose for the mass weapon reduction, but actually I would still like some of the debuffs that we get from utilizing our skills and utilizing our cryo beam. So elemental tech is going to debuff the enemy by a further 35%, so armored enemies are going to be debuffed quite a lot more because you've got anti-armor, and on the cryo beam you do happen to get a debuff against 50% debuff against armor anyway, so why not go for elemental tech and debuff things even more? It just allows you to kill enemies that much more with your cryo beam, that much easier, and if you kill things with your cryo beam easier, you're going to get more snap freezes, which is the aim of the game. So support systems, this is going to increase our survivability, so we're going to take at rank 4, we've got a choice between power duration or area of effect and the construct area of effect radius. I like to take the tech radius mainly because I want my cryo beam to cover as much area as possible, so that allows me to do that. The more enemies I can capture in the cryo beam, the more likely I am to freeze them. Once they're frozen, more likely to snap freeze and shatter once we kill them. At rank 5, we've got the choice between Advanced Construction and Tactical Revive. I still don't see much point in Tactical Revive. It's super situational, whereas Advanced Construction gives you a flat bonus 100% of the time. Increases your shields and health, and it increases your turret's health even more than we have already. At rank 6, this is a bit more of an interesting one. Shield reset, Once every 10 seconds, using a tech power causes your shields to recharge immediately rather than after a delay. That does actually help your survivability by quite a bit. The only problem that I have with it is once every 10 seconds is quite a long cooldown. If you consider that there are some other skills that you can get with some other classes, I want to say things like saving barrier, for example, in the some of the biotic classes, that allows you to fully recharge your shields every 10 seconds if you drop below a certain amount of health. Now, there is no health parameter on this, so you can trigger this by yourself a bit more reliably, but I still think that every 10 seconds, just to cause the shields to start to recharge is not enough, because usually you're wanting your shields to recharge because something's shooting at you. Causing them to recharge is you want them to fill. So if this was to give you a little bit of a shield refill after using a power, then that would be different, but it's not. So I still very much prefer to take Tech Sabotage, which debuffs enemies that I hit with my powers by 30%. So if something is shooting at me, I can debuff it by 30% and make sure that I'm not taking as much damage. Both of these increase your survivability, but I feel that Tech Sabotage is, again, it's something that's going to be available to you all the time rather than just every 10 seconds. And there you have it, that is the build. Now, what would I pair it with in terms of weapons? I would like to generally use a fast firing weapon or something that primes very, very quickly. So for this reason, at this moment in time, the current state of the game would suggest that something like the Hornet is very, very good at priming quickly. You can also consider some other fast firing weapons like the Charger. But also, there's some assault rifles that can charge quickly as well, things like the Paw and beam weapons. So if you have the Shadow as well, that could be very, very useful. The only difficulty with that is my Shadow has a lot of weight at the moment, so it's going to really boost my recharge speeds by quite a lot. So if you've got a higher ranked Shadow and you can get those recharge speeds down a little bit more, then certainly consider that. But I'm certainly wanting recharge speeds more often than not. So let's stick with the Hornet. As a secondary, I mean, you could go without a secondary, but I quite like something that's maybe slightly different to the Hornet, so I quite like the Sidewinder, but equally something like the Scorpion would be useful as well. Does that put me over 100? It does very, very slightly, so if you had higher ranks of those guns, then that would obviously be better. But let's stick with the Sidewinder. I've got that at rank 5 because I'm a lucky boy. And in terms of equipment, there's only really one choice, and in my eyes that's the engineering kit, which increase the damage dealt by your tech powers by 30%. Not really much point in going with anything else. So that's a very, very easy choice. And then in terms of boosters, I quite like cryo ammo because it allows me to freeze enemies when I'm not using cryo beam. So I can freeze enemies with cryo beam and I can freeze them with cryo ammo. It also does extra damage to armor and all the usual boosts that ammo provides. In terms of other boosters, what would I consider? I mean, you could go with a flat out booster pistols. You could go with some tech power to increase your tech damage by even more. But on gold and things like that, I would also consider some increase to your shields, because you still can be a little bit squishy. You don't have quite the survivability of some of the other classes. You're very much reliant on debuffing enemies and helping out your allies dispatch things very, very quickly. So you are going to get shot a fair amount, and you don't really want to get overwhelmed and get swamped by 2 or 3 different enemies, because you are going to suffer from the fact that you don't have the greatest level of shields or health. So there's the build. Thank you ever so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video and you find it useful and you've tried out this build, let me know in the comments below and leave a like on the video. It helps other people find my content. If you want to see more Mass Effect Andromeda Multiplayer, maybe consider subscribing, because there's plenty more coming on my channel in the coming days and weeks. But I appreciate your time. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll catch you again in the next video.